Daniel Craig's run as James Bond is finally coming to an end, so if you need a recap of everything he got up to in his history as James Bond, don't worry, this video has you covered. This is everything that you need to know about the previous James Bond movies before you see No Time to Die. Let's get started. Daniel Craig's run as James Bond began in 2006's Casino Royale. Bond has just been promoted to a 00 agent, a top-secret branch of agents in MI6's Secret Intelligence Service. On his first mission as 007, Bond thwarts a terrorist attack on the Skyfall airliner. The head of SIS, M, informs Bond that the mastermind behind the attempted terrorist attack was Le Chiffre, a private banker to terrorists. Le Chiffre shorts successful companies' stocks and stages terrorist attacks to tank the stocks and reap the financial benefits. But after Bond thwarts the Skyfall attack, Le Chiffre is left on the hook for a huge financial loss. And so Le Chiffre stages a high-stakes poker tournament at the Casino Royale in Montenegro with the hopes of recouping his losses. Bond is sent to the tournament to beat Le Chiffre, with MI6 hoping that a defeat would force a cash-strapped Le Chiffre to aid them in taking down his terrorist creditors in exchange for their protection. Bond's allies on this mission include MI6 agent Rene Mathis and a foreign liaison named Vesper Lynd. The tournament is not an especially fun one for Bond, as throughout his stay in Montenegro he's forced to murder a rival, is nearly killed himself by poison, and even loses the tournament. Fortunately for that last one, Bond befriends a CIA operative named Felix Leiter, who buys Bond back into the tournament with the promise that the CIA would be the ones who get to arrest Le Chiffre. Eventually, Bond manages to successfully win the tournament, and along the way strikes up a romantic relationship with Vesper. Le Chiffre has Vesper and Bond captured and tortures Bond to give up the password to the account holding the tournament winnings. And that's when the mysterious Mr. White shows up. White is a leader of the secret organization Quantum, who lost a lot of money due to Le Chiffre. White kills Le Chiffre and his men and sets Bond and Vesper free. Vesper confesses her love for Bond and he resigns from SIS to run off with her. On vacation in Italy, Vesper betrays Bond and delivers the Casino Royale winnings to Quantum. Bond fights off Quantum agents, but Vesper drowns herself. A distraught Bond calls M to return to service and is told that Vesper had a boyfriend being held by Quantum and the money was meant to secure his release. When Bond checks Vesper's phone, he discovers she's left Mr. White's phone number for him. And so Bond tracks down Quantum leader Mr. White, shoots him in the leg, and takes him into custody. The story continues in Quantum of Solace, a sleepier affair. Mr. White's Quantum agents manage to rescue their leader from Bond and SIS. Bond then discovers another Quantum leader in Dominic Greene, who is attempting to help overthrow the Bolivian government and install General Medrano as the new president. And so Bond makes it his new mission to take down Greene. M thinks Bond is too close to this mission and is fueled by revenge for Vesper, which is true, and calls Bond out of the field. But he continues on his own and thus doesn't have the support of MI6. He teams up with Greene's former flame Camille Montes, whose family was killed by Medrano. Along the way, Bond also gets help from old friends Rene Mathis, who was killed by corrupt cops working for Medrano, and Felix Leiter, who tips Bond off to Greene's location and the CIA's pursuit of Bond. Eventually, Bond and Camille take down Greene and Medrano before parting ways. As Quantum of Solace comes to a close, Bond tracks down Yusuf Kabira, the boyfriend of Vesper Lynd. Turns out Yusuf was also a member of Quantum, who seduced high-ranking women and staged his own kidnapping so they'd pay his ransom. Bond decides to spare Yusuf and has MI6 arrest him. With all of these loose ends tied up, M has Bond reinstated into SIS. And that brings us to Skyfall. James Bond is sent on a mission with Eve Moneypenny to stop a mercenary from stealing a hard drive containing a list of names and details of undercover agents currently in the field. If the wrong people got their hands on that intel, it would be disastrous for MI6, which is why M gives Moneypenny the go-ahead to take a shot at the mercenary, even though Bond was also in the line of fire. Moneypenny accidentally shoots Bond instead, and the mercenary escapes. Following the debacle, M is pressured by the chairman of the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament, Gareth Mallory, to resign. Following this, MI6's servers are hacked and their headquarters are blown up in a terrorist attack. James Bond, who was presumed dead and was now living in retirement, spending his days drinking and having sex, returns to London after seeing the attacks on the news. Bond fails his physical, medical, and psychological exams, but M approves him to return to the field anyway. Bond meets with MI6's new quartermaster Q, who equips him with a gun and a radio transmitter, and then heads off on his mission to track down the mercenary and uncover their employer. Eventually, Bond discovers that the man behind the attacks was Silva, a former MI6 agent who now dealt in cyber terrorism. Silva has become obsessed with his vendetta against M, who had sold him out to the Chinese government while under her employ in exchange for the release of several other agents. To put a stop to Silva's terrorism, Bond has Q and M's chief of staff Bill Tanner leave an electronic trail for Silva to follow. The trail's destination? Skyfall, the Bond family home. Bond, M, and Skyfall's gamekeeper Kincaid prepare the estate for Silva's attack. In that attack, M is wounded, but Bond manages to kill Silva once and for all. But then M succumbs to her wounds and dies in Bond's arms. Following M's funeral, Moneypenny retires from field work to become the secretary for Gareth Mallory, the newly appointed M. And that brings us to Spectre. The recently deceased M left Bond a message, sending him on an unauthorized mission to kill terrorist Marco Sciarra. Bond takes Sciarra's ring for further investigation. The new M is angry at Bond's unauthorized mission and suspends him from field duty. But of course, Bond disobeys M's orders and uses Sciarra's ring to infiltrate a secret meeting for whatever shady organization Sciarra belonged to. At the meeting, Bond learns of the organization's leader, Franz Oberhauser, and of a hit to be taken out against a former member known as the Pale King. Bond has Moneypenny look into Oberhauser and the Pale King. When Bond finds the Pale King, he discovers that it is actually an ailing Mr. White, the former head of Quantum. Mr. White then urges Bond to protect his daughter, who can help lead Bond to Oberhauser. White kills himself, and Bond hurries off to find White's daughter. White's daughter is Dr. Madeline Swan, who tells Bond that the organization's name is Spectre, and it's revealed that previous Bond villains Le Chiffre, Dominic, Greene, and Raoul Silva were all members. As James Bond is out in the field learning of Spectre, his boss M has his own problems to deal with. The general director of the new Joint Intelligence Service, Max Denby, aka C, wants Britain to join the Nine Eyes Global Surveillance Initiative to shut down the 00 program for good. After defeating Spectre assassin Mr. Hinx, Bond and Madeline are brought to Oberhauser's Spectre base, where the villain tortures Bond and reveals his evil plans. It is actually Spectre that is funding the Joint Intelligence Service and was staging terrorist attacks to create a need for the Nine Eyes surveillance program, which would allow Oberhauser to spy on the government and anyone looking to stop his evil plans. He also reveals himself to be James Bond's stepbrother, who became jealous of his father's relationship with James. Oberhauser killed his father, took on the name Ernst Blofeld, founded Spectre, and set in motion plans to ruin his brother James Bond's life. It was Blofeld that was personally responsible for the deaths of Vesper Lynd and M. Bond and Madeline managed to escape and blow up the Spectre base. Upon returning to London, they team up with M, Q, Moneypenny, and Bill Tanner to stop C from taking the Nine Eyes program online. Blofeld has Madeline kidnapped, and Bond must save her from an imminently detonating building as M and Q shut down Nine Eyes and fight C, who eventually falls to his death. Bond and Madeline escape the building just in the nick of time, and Bond shoots down a fleeing Blofeld's helicopter. Ultimately, Bond decides to spare his brother, who is taken into custody by M. Bond then decides to turn away from M and the 00 program to be with Madeline and pursue a quieter, simple life in love. And that's everything that's happened so far in Daniel Craig's run as James Bond. What have been your favorite moments so far? How do you hope his story ends? And who do you hope is going to play the next James Bond? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video if you found it helpful. Subscribe to this channel for more content like it. And that does it for me in this one. But I'll see you in the next one.